Greetings, I'm Reverend Tiffany White, Saved Woman, and in this video we'll be discussing near-death experiences and exit points. No matter what you call them, whether it's near-death experience or exit points, we all do experience these in our physical lifetime. Now, what is predetermined is maybe the number of these types of experiences that we're going to have. And we can choose, it's like maybe 4. So let's take someone now who's lived their whole life, and I'm talking about the exit point here. And they've gone through 3 already. They get to the end of life, so to speak, the end of this physical life. But they don't remember these other 3. And they take this last one. Yes, they're ready to go on. And usually, and no matter how much they may feel like they thought they weren't ready, when they make the decision to go, they go. All right, then they do. What I'm getting at here is that the decision is ours to make. There's ours to make. That it's time to move on. And our soul knows that, not our mind. Our soul knows that. And so don't be upset or mad when family members and loved ones cross over before you were ready for them to. That it's all part of their mission, and really part of yours as well. All right, so I'm going to get off track here. See how it's all connected? So, in near-death experiences, and this isn't taking from anyone that has had a very profound near-death experience, and you always hear where their heart stops, maybe they were declared dead. You don't even have to go through all of that to have that experience. More and more people, as they are embracing meditation, maybe they astral travel and are conscious, are aware that they're astral traveling, maybe in dream time. And many of us go to sleep at nighttime and in our dreams or our astral travels, and we've made a choice to stay and to wake up in the morning. But you don't remember that. So you don't maybe know or are aware of, hey, I just passed an exit point. I denied that exit. I'm just going to keep going. All right. And it can be very subtle as far as you change your mind on a direction that you want to take. You change your mind on the path or the route that you take to work or to run an errand or just to do something that's out of the routine, that breaks the routines. And because subconsciously what's going on is, we've got an exit point coming up. Are we going to take it? Now, I'm not ready. This is inner dialogue. But you're probably not even aware of what's going on unless you are plugged in with yourself, with that deep knowing of who you are, and with that conversation of what's taking place between your soul and your guides and the angels, and conversation with the divine in the divine realm. So you may not be consciously, your mind, aware of what this conversation is. And so, no, we're not ready, so we're just going to change it up. We're going to, I just got this wild hair. Let's go do this instead. And so, there you go. And you can just miss one of your exit points. And yes, you those that their heart stops and they experience which we've all heard by now, right? The tunnel, the light at the end of the tunnel. Many of us experience this without having that near-death experience, especially, like I'm saying, those that can travel, those that can go in between the realms, whether they're spirit walkers, realm walkers, the travelers. Let's also take that dark tunnel, light at the end of the tunnel. Isn't that birthing too? Wouldn't the baby describe that as the same exact way? I'm coming out of this darkness. I see the light at the end of the birth canal. And here I am. A transformation. Wombs are sacred portals. We are Sacred Heart Center. Male and female. Masculine and feminine. We are portals. We are stargates. These are the stargates that are activating and opening up is within us. It's us. Us. So, the baby can use the same analogy of, okay, dark tunnel, light at the end of a tunnel, so to speak. So the baby being birthed. And then, how interesting is that we describe that when we leave our physical body. Again, like I said, a lot of people who astral travel are used to that feeling of leaving their body. Once they get past the, oh my goodness, am I dying? And they realize what they're doing. And they can just get back in. And you can even make a conscious choice there as to whether you want to come back or not. Do I want to wake up? That kind of thing. And some of us can wake up and feel like we had a strange dream and that, wow, but you just have this knowing that I chose to stay, that I'm here, and you have even more courage and strength than you've had before. To maybe this happens when you're having a difficult situation, a difficult experience, and you wake up and you feel refreshed. Maybe you've had that dialogue with angels and guides. So what do I mean by that? Let's see if this feels familiar. And not just angels and guides, but your loved ones too. Or maybe even those that you don't recognize, because your whole soul family shows up. So, I had one of my near-death experiences that I remember. Actually, there's several. As I was preparing for this, the guide said, well, you had one, you had two other ones here. I'm sure I had them in my youth and I don't remember. All right. I do remember like two, kind of like back to back. One when I was 13 or 14. I was electrocuted. And I actually felt myself step out of my body. And an angel or a divine being coming into my body. And why did that happen? I'm going to tell you why. Is because when you're electrocuted, you start spasming. You can't let go of what you're holding on to. You can't talk. You can't, you can make a screaming noise, which I was evidently doing. And how this electrocution happened was we had, my family liked to go camping a lot, and we had a trailer in the backyard, a camper. And the camper was hooked up, powered to the garage. So the quarters running to the garage. Well, that was a great hideout for me, a getaway. I was like, hey, can I camp out in the camper on the weekends when we're not camping? And so I was like, okay, I had a great time alone, my meditation, my retreat, whatever. And I always walked around barefooted when I was younger if I could get away with it. No socks, I wore the tennis shoes and shoes with no socks, whatever I could do to try to stay barefoot. Well, it had rained and stormed the night before, so you're in this camper, and how I loved staying in the camper when it rained to hear the raindrops on the camper top. I was like, oh, this is just, so meditative for me. So I loved it. Well, the next morning, the ground was wet, and I ran inside the house for something, to grab something, and came back. And so the ground is wet, and my feet now are on this wet ground, no shoes. And I reach up, actually it was my right hand, I reach up to grab the metal handle to step back up into the trailer. And obviously it wasn't grounded because I was grounding it. And that's when the electrical shock, I could feel it surge all through my body. And I don't remember where it was exiting. I don't remember that. But I just know that I couldn't let go. It was stuck. I was screaming to the rest of my family to come outside and help me. And finally, wouldn't you know, my mom and dad had gone off that day and had a babysitter, and then my half brothers and sisters, my half sisters were there, and my younger brother. And they run out. They're like, we don't know what to do. And this is when I felt that very gentleness, a push aside, this calming, loving energy come into me and speak, give instructions. Go into the garage and pull and unplug the trailer. I wouldn't have known what to do. I didn't know that because, it's like, I don't even know what's going on. I just wanted to stop. And here comes these instructions. And I'm like, where is this coming from? And so one of my youngest sisters did that. She unplugged it, and then I was able to let go. Well, a firefighter across the street, a neighbor, trained to know when you hear a distress yell, comes running over and makes sure I'm okay. And I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't get checked up or anything. I felt so much energy. I really felt charged, supercharged. I couldn't sit down. They wanted me to sit down and be calm. And I'm like, no, I can't. And so, but during that time of when this divine angel was in my body giving the commands, I did feel, do you want to come back in? Do you want to continue? And I was like, yes, I have a strong will. I may not understand what my mission is at this young age, but I know that I have to get back in. And so then now, a year later, so that's one of them, a year later, I was like 15, it could be a year and a half, and I was at a party with some friends, and it was a church youth group party at that time. So we had, of course, adults there supervising, but us being the age that we are, we were playing chicken. We were crazy. It was inside. I do believe the weather might have been pretty bad that day. So, because they had a pool, the people whose house the party was at had a pool, but we were inside. And so, roughhousing around. We got on shoulders. I got on somebody's shoulders, and we were playing, and I got knocked off. The person whose shoulders I was on got hit, and we both fell. Well, when I fell, I hit the back of their stone fireplace. Bam! Back of my head. Oh, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Did the whole check thing. Everything was fine. But as the night went on, I started to feel like I was in a dream. Things started to lag. I felt like people talking got real slow. Like that. It was like, oh, this is really wild. I didn't do any drugs. I didn't, eat any mushrooms. I don't understand why I'm experiencing this. And then it was, the next thing I know, I'm waking up in my bed at home. And I had a concussion, a very bad concussion. And I was in bed for a week. And during that time, I had a lot of deep in and out of my bodies and choices, and childhood was very hard for me, so it makes sense that I had 2 exit points right back to back, and in that, again, that strong will, no, I know I'm not done, even though I'm complaining. I'm sorry. I know I'm not done. Just let me get through it. Let me complain. I'll get through it. Everything's gonna be fine. And then it was now here I am, married with kids, and this many years, probably like 15 years later, we're going to fast forward now, 15, 16, 17 years, maybe anywhere between 15 and 17 years, fast forward I'm at a dentist office, which dentists used to terrify, and they still do. Let me just be honest. They don't terrify me like they used to, but I still kind of, I had to be in extreme pain to go to the dentist. And I really had to talk myself into, I need to go to the dentist, even for a checkup. It's, let's go. I have to motivate myself, so to speak, have that talk. And the next one happened in the dentist chair. And I was going for an 1.5-hour procedure. And those in the area, in that community, it was a small community, tight knit. They knew that I homeschooled my boys, and at that age, because they were smaller, like 9 and 10, I think. And so they packed their little bags, they had their snacks and their drinks, and we went to the dentist. And the receptionists were really good. They were like, okay, they keep an eye on them. They can see them because they had the window, the opening, and their boys were very good with entertaining themselves, doing a little bit of schoolwork, reading, bringing some toys, whatever. And they were very, very well behaved. And so, because I knew this was going to be a long procedure. And of course, my husband was out at sea. My husband was in the Navy. He's retired now, but from the Navy. So I go in for the procedure, and I don't like gas because it leaves me feeling sick. I don't like what gas does to me. So they knocked me out. They had an IV, and they just knocked me out. And upon me, so here I'm waiting. I could hear them talking. And usually from being knocked out before, it's a fade out of the voices. The fade out never happened. I could always hear them talking. But then it's like I'm floating above my body. I'm noticing everything in the room that I didn't notice before. All right? Every part of where our plant was on top of this cabinet. There was a picture of this here, this detail of this picture. I'm looking at everything. And I turn around and look at my body, and I'm hovering over my body. I see the dentist and the assistant. And then I'm going up, and it's like I'm dancing and twirling and playing with fairies and unicorns and dragons. And then there's this huge sentinel being, this angel standing there. Now, this particular angel was not one of my guardian angels, so to speak. And then my guides came forth, and then a couple more angels that I recognized communicating with. And they, are you ready? Are you ready to go? And I'm like, ready to leave the dentist? Yeah, let's go. No. And it was like, it's like they had to ground me to have a conversation with me, because I was just like playing with fairies and and like in different realms all at the same time. And they kind of just had to really, the angels always have the patience with you, and sometimes my guides are like, oh gosh, can you calm down and listen? So it was kind of like one of my guides was just like, oh, focus. Are you ready to cross over? And it made me stop. I stopped dancing, stopped twirling around, and I stood there, and I'm like, oh, no, I'm not. My sons are in the waiting room. My husband, their dad, is out to sea. Oh my gosh, I'm not devastating the family that way. I was like, no. I know I have a lot more to do. I'm not done yet. Okay, that was it. Boom. What seemed like what happened and took place in 5 minutes. Then I'm back. I look at the receptionist, and I was like, so when is this going to start? And she's laughing. She's just looking at me like, sweetheart, you're waking up now. You've been asleep for an hour and a half. You've been out for an hour and a half. I'm like, what? An hour and a half? She's like, yeah, we're done. And so then she gets up and leaves for a minute. And they're like, you just have to be monitored. And then I start looking at, this is everything I saw out of my body, looking at all the details around the room. So it's pretty profound. So it can be like that. Your heart doesn't have to stop. You don't have, could you imagine too if my heart did stop at the dentist office and they were paranoid? Or maybe if it skipped a couple of beats, they didn't, and they were monitoring it, okay, everything's all right. But for my heart to stop and stop breathing, that could be pretty devastating and create a lot of ruckus. And again, like I said, with the boys sitting out there in the waiting room. And that's just not what was charted or planned. So it was like, no. And so it was like the rest of the day, I felt very flighty. I felt very, what's going on? I felt very, like I have with angel experiences. Like you've been in deep meditation and you come out and it's like, okay, now let's go do this, let's go do that. And I really took it easy the rest of the day and just blamed it on, my dental surgery procedure, whatever I had done. But really, it was because I was like, oh my gosh, this happened. This truly, truly happened. And how awesome is that? And I did journal it, of course. I was like, I need to journal this right now. And so I sat down and journaled that particular time. So I go and think about, how, like I said, subtle, and then when you really start to be in touch more and more with your body and with who you are, you may know, here it comes, no, I'm not ready, and that can be that. It doesn't have to be a big drawn out, a big production, so to speak. And not that that's bad, but if we're not aware of and having dialogue between our mind and our consciousness, our soul, we don't know what's our subconsciousness, we don't know what's going on within, then it's going to seem very dramatic and very, very huge. But we can have that very simple, are you ready? Nope, okay, let's go on with the day and just move on. So it's a very, very beautiful experiences, I should say. My youngest, after
he was born, he had, I think it was like several hours. It was an emergency C-section. The umbilical cord was around his neck and his arm, like this. All right. And they lose the heartbeat every time I had a contraction. So they had to go in and emergency C-section, and he was born. But a couple hours later, we were holding him. I held him, and then my husband was holding him, and he turned blue. He stopped breathing, and the nurse come rushing in and took him and ran down back to the nursery. And so he was gone the rest of the day. Kept him, and this happened probably like early afternoon, and they brought him back to me like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. This young man comes in, and I was like, oh, woke me up, and it was fine because I really wasn't asleep anyway. And they gave him back to me, or he took him, and he's like, here. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. And he was like, he really scared us. We thought he was a goner because he stopped breathing several times. And I needed to hear that. And he just looked at me and he goes, I'm so sorry. Please don't report me. Don't tell anybody I said that. And I was like, no, I'm not going to say anything because I needed to hear that. Thank you very much. And I know that it's not anyone here's fault. It was his choice. And so I held him wee hours in the morning, of course, fed him, and it was just thank you for staying. And it was in this beautiful place of gratitude. So that was one of his exit points. It probably was I can't even say very first one, because how many babies make the decision before they're actually born of, contemplating, do I want this to happen? So anyway, I just want to show you all the different degrees of near-death experience and exit points. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. You can message me through my website, whitesagewoman.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and many blessings to each of you. May the obstacles to your flight be few, and the blessings along your journey be many.